we have a new feature in Winlink and a new service that ARES can help provide. It's an alliance between ARES and the USGS. As Oliver said, many of you have already tried the "Did you feel it" reporting on the internet. When you have an earthquake, and you can see from the maps that that we've seen, we've got a lot of responses. Let's see, there we go. We'll talk a little bit about why this is important and why we're doing it, and then about exactly what you can do to be a part of it. And if there's time, we'll take a little bit of time to talk about getting GPS coordinates into your reports. This is a graphic that Oliver just showed, showing who's involved in this collaboration. Importantly, we have the USGS involved, and I'm so glad that we were able to get them on board with this. And they were very excited to learn that ARES and other ham operators want to get involved in this process, because we're talking about a highly trained group of people with good equipment, good skills that can provide good data for them. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go on as well. This is just a little summary of the Ridgecrest earthquake sequence that occurred last year. I mean, many of us were, if I recall, we were all standing in front of the library in South Pasadena last July 4th when the 6.4 earthquake in Ridgecrest hit. And that was a 6.4 earthquake. And as you can see from this graphic right around in here, there were 51,000 "Did you feel it" responses posted for this particular event. 2 days later, there was a second earthquake, a 7.1. There were 42,000 "Did you feel it" posts on that particular earthquake. So this is providing some very useful information to the USGS. And it's a special kind of information, because here on this graphic, I'm reporting the earthquake in terms of magnitude, the Richter scale. You've all seen this before. So 6.4, 7.1. This is something which can be determined by the equipment in the ground. So we can measure the magnitude of the earthquake, how deep it was, where it was, and so forth. The "Did you feel it" provides slightly different kind of information. It provides what we call intensity. And the intensity has more to do with the effects of the earthquake on the surface. So what did people actually feel? What happened in their homes? And this is obviously, for most users, a more meaningful measure of the intensity of the earthquake than just the number. As we know, a magnitude 7 earthquake feels a lot different depending on what kind of ground you're on. Are you on solid ground? Are you on a marshy landscape? We saw this in the San Francisco quakes back in the 90s. Depending on where you were, you had a much, much different experience of that earthquake. So the intensity is what's attempted to get from this "Did you feel it" response. And here's a little summary of what the intensities on this special scale are. And you can see from an intensity 1, not felt. Most people didn't feel it in your area, all the way to the extreme where wooden structures are destroyed, masonry frame structures destroyed, and so forth. So what you'll see when you fill out one of these "Did you feel it" forms, they're going to be asking questions about these kinds of specifics. What kind of shaking did you feel? What were there lampshades swinging? Were the doors swinging on the hinges? Was there any actual damage to the wood structures or the concrete structures at your location? And you'll see that when you see the "Did you feel it" form. They're looking for these specifics of what happened on the ground. Again, this is the enhancement that's been made here is the "Did you feel it" still exists on the internet. You can always go to the USGS website and report on "Did you feel it" using the internet. The enhancement that we've provided now is a form built into Winlink which allows you to send a Did You Feel It report directly from Winlink. You don't have to have an internet connection, as you know, to send messages via Winlink. And this allows you to send a report when your internet is down. And as you can see, we'll go through an example later. It's essentially a questionnaire format. It's going to go through asking you about the kinds of experience you had and what kind of damage was reported at your area, and helps them determine this intensity scale. It's pretty simple form to fill out, and again, we'll see that in a minute. And what it does is it creates a file output called a JSON, and that JSON gets sent to the USGS computers, and then the USGS system combines that information from all of the reports that it receives. Both the internet reports and the reports that we create on Winlink are going to get sent directly into that system. And that's an important point. You know, we work with a lot of different government agencies. If you look at the template list on Winlink, there are a lot of different templates there for reporting weather conditions and other sorts of information. None of that is directly input into a government system. This is the only one at the moment where the response you send in your Winlink form will go directly into a government computer system. So this is a real big step forward with Winlink and the Winlink development team. This is a sort of side-by-side look at the forms. On the left here is the form that you get if you go to the USGS website and attempt to do a Did You Feel It report. The format is a little bit more vertically oriented, so it's kind of a long form. The format of the Winlink form on the right is a little bit more horizontally oriented, but it's the exact same questions. Okay, so if you've used the Did You Feel It report on the internet, you'll have no trouble using the form on Winlink. Exact same questions. As I said before, the data from the USGS version and the Winlink version is formatted in what's called a JSON, which is just a simple text file that gets sent directly to the USGS database. And that data is used in many different ways. The scientific community uses that information to understand the intensity and how the earthquake affected people. It's also used by first responders and utility companies to understand where's the damage, where are we going to go first to attempt to provide assistance. And then finally, it's also used to create these little maps that you've probably all seen. If you're using one of the USGS reporting services, when there's a big earthquake, I have my system set up so I receive an email directly telling me that the earthquake happened, it was 4.4. I can click on something and then it takes me to a different site that shows me the location of the earthquake and also shows me how it was perceived and felt around the epicenter. And you get this little map like in the bottom right here. And that's very useful for, for the rest of us to understand, how serious was this earthquake. But I want to stress the importance of how this data can also be used by first responders and utilities to help us directly. So when we send this information out, we're actually helping ourselves by informing the authorities how bad the situation is in our area, and resources can be deployed to help us. And I think that's an important takeaway from this, is that you're serving yourself and your community by providing this information. So like I said before, why is this important? For USGS, they're getting quality data. They really appreciate the input from the ham radio community because they know they're going to get quality data from us, better than I would say they're getting from the general public. Another important part of this that USGS was very excited about was it helps fill some gaps in their reporting. I mean, imagine what happens if there's a major earthquake somewhere and the internet is knocked out in the area near the epicenter. They're not going to get reports on the internet Did You Feel It report because internet's down. People can't send reports. So they have what they call a donut effect, where they get good information about the incident away from the epicenter. They get far less information near the epicenter. As hand radio operators, we don't need the internet in order to provide information. We can use Winlink, we can use gateways, we can use peer-to-peer, we can get our messages out and provide this information in the donut hole and help provide additional information to USGS. As I said before, for ARES, we help protect our communities by improving science and providing this information. It's great for us to collaborate with government agencies, builds our respect and opens up new opportunities for us. It's a great opportunity to train our operators. So that's where you all come into this. Before I go on, just want to stop and ask, are there any questions at this point? I saw a lot of chats coming in.
No questions at this time. Another
Okay.
call for questions, just in case.
I had a question real quick. Where do we send this to a specific USGS address, or is there one that amalgamates all that information that everybody's going to use? How does that work?
Yeah, for the time being, we're in beta testing mode. So there is a USGS address where the information will go. Right now, it will not go live into their database. It goes to a user who will collect the information and treat it as a test. Once we get through the beta testing, I would imagine probably around the 1st of July, this will go live, and we'll get a different address, a USGS address, and that information will go directly to the USGS.
If I may clarify, right now it goes to the USGS programmer, who will look at the quality of the data. And then if it's a real event, for instance, you have that option, exercise a real event. If you're reporting a real event, it'll actually be added to the official database. For the exercises, he'll create a separate database to evaluate how good the quality of the information is. So thank you, Jeff, for pointing that out. And thanks, Rob, for the question.
Any other questions? Okay, so let's move on. How can you help? How can you get involved in this? Like I said, we're creating some training and testing scenarios over the next few weeks. And we're going to set up small groups, 5 to 15 people, with the intention of training the folks how to use the form and how to report effective information. We're going to set up some scenarios. Generally, we'll make up an event, and one of the things we'd like to do is to make it useful for the testers is to provide information about a simulated event that occurs at a particular time in a particular place, so that the responses that we get are all tied to that one event. We don't want just random reports, everyone making up their own Did You Feel It report and sending it in. That's not is going to be as useful as if we try to group them together into real single events occurring at a certain time in a certain place. So when we get this going, we'll recruit people to participate in this. If you're interested, please send me an email, send Oliver an email. We will put together a list of people who want to participate in this, and then we'll send out instructions. We'll say, here's the simulated event we're going to do, and here's the location of the event, here's the time of the event, and then we just want you to fill in the details of your experience with that hypothetical event, and then send the messages in. And then, like Oliver said, someone at USGS is going to review all this and look for ways to improve the experience before it goes live. In the form, there's a comment box at the bottom, and we're going to use that to just provide additional information about how the form was sent. So what mode did you use? Did you use Packet? Did you use PACTOR or VARA? You're using Telnet, and any suggestions you have, send back to us. There's going to be an experienced coordinator for each of these events, and the way we're going to do this is if you're sending your data to the USGS, also carbon copy the exercise coordinator so that we get all the messages as well, and we can keep track of what's been said and how it looks. So the first thing we're going to have to do is deal with getting Did You Feel It installed in your Winlink system, because it's not currently part of the Winlink distribution. Okay, as you know, Winlink contains a lot of built-in forms, and those forms come down automatically from the Winlink development team, and when they're updated. This is not yet in that distribution, so you're going to have to get these forms offline and then install them yourself. So we're going to go through quickly how you do that. So you're going to download the latest forms in a zip file, and this is where they can be found. They're on the web at bit.ly. On this, you'll pull up a zip file that contains 2 relatively small files, and you want to extract those files into your RMS Express template directory. And you need to use this particular one because this will allow you to find them easily within Winlink. It's the global folders / templates. And I'll leave it to you to figure out how to do that. It's really not that hard if you're a Windows user. To use the form, you'll go to Start a New Message, select Template, Global Templates, USGS DYFI Draft. That'll be the name of the template in your global template directory. And it'll look something like this in your table manager. You'll see a list of your global templates. Those of you who are using the ARES LAX check-in and check-out would already be in this location. And then the USGS DYFI-draft will also be there once you've installed it. You open the form, it's going to look something like this. I'm going to move this out of the way. And there's some fields at the top of the form that are critical. You must fill out these fields at the top. Did you feel it? Yes or no. The time of the quake, and then the location, your location. These things you must fill out. And if, again, like many Winlink forms, if you don't fill these out, the system will stop you and say, I can't send your report until you fill them out. Excuse me. The first thing we have to fill out here, and this is important for the training and the testing, is whether this is an exercise or a real event. Most of what we're going to do here in these training sessions is going to be exercises. We're going to make up a sort of hypothetical situation. As Oliver said, though, they're willing to accept actual reports. So if you remember where you were and how it felt back in the Ridgecrest quake on July 4th or July 6th, you're welcome to actually send in real data on that event. If you did that, you would check the real event box here. Now, you might think, why is there a field for did you feel it, yes or no? Why would you report an incident that you didn't feel? Well, that can be useful to USGS as well. If you were in the general vicinity of an earthquake, but you did not feel it, it's worthwhile to report that because someone further away from the event might have felt it. And that helps them understand ground quality and propagation of the event. So it's perfectly legitimate to report an event that you did not feel. The time of the earthquake, when you open the form, will automatically populate. You're generally going to need to change that because you're going to be sending your report sometime other than when the earthquake actually happened. So you can edit this field to show the actual time of the earthquake. And note that this is in local time. It will eventually be converted to UTC time on the USGS side, but the report is in local time. And then finally, the location of the earthquake. This is the required field. Your address is probably the best thing. So you need to put in your address in the first long box here. And then the latitude and longitude, you should put that in as well if you have access to it. If you're using a GPS dongle, you'll find that this information can be located, can be input directly on latitude and longitude. If you're not using a GPS dongle, there are very easy ways to get this information, and we'll go over that later if there's a little bit of time. And we'll do a live demo in a moment so that you can see how this whole form works. I think I've already been through this. Okay, after you submit the form, back in Winlink, you're going to get a message that looks something like this. And as you can see, the to field has already been pre-populated with the address of our contact at USGS. Here I've added a CC for W2JCL, so whoever the coordinator of the exercise is, please CC them. And the subject field is already filled out. And then this form here, this JSON, this is the data that's going to go to USGS. And again, it's just a text file. And you'll notice that your call sign is actually already pre-populated. So a lot of information in this JSON going to the USGS. And they like having our call signs because it helps them to validate where the data is coming from. And it gives them a little bit more confidence that the data they have is reliable. Okay, let's do a quick live demo. Let me see if I can make this happen. Can you all see the desktop here?
Yes, we can, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, good. So here I am on my home screen of Winlink. I want to send one of these forms. What do I do? So I've already installed the system on my the forms on my system. So I'm just going to show you how to access it. So we'll go to Message, New Message, and I'm going to select Template. As I said, I've installed these under Global Templates. So I go to Global Templates. As you can see, I have slightly fewer of these than Oliver had. But there's the draft, USGS DYFI-draft. And I select that. And it opens up the form. So looks just like the sample I just gave you. So did you feel it? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to leave the time as it is. Let's say that this just happened and I'm jumping on the internet to or Winlink in order to send this. My address, I've entered that before, so it remembers that. And now you see my latitude and longitude is already entered. That's because I've got a GPS dongle attached to my laptop here. So this is current and accurate. And then I fill out the form itself. What was your situation? I was inside of a building. Were you asleep? No, I was not. Did others nearby feel it? Some felt it, most did not. How would you describe the shaking? I'm going to call it weak. This is sort of my reporting of the event that happened. I think it was June the 4th last week. There was an earthquake out in Searles Valley. How did you react? Very little reaction. How did you respond? Took no action. Was it difficult to stand and or walk? No. Notice any swinging of doors? No. Any creaking or other noises? No. Did objects rattle? No. Pictures on walls move or get knocked askew? No. Any furniture or appliances moved or topple over? Not in this case. Heavy appliances moving? No. Any standing walls or fences damaged? No. Any damage to the building? And here I can enter any number of these items. If there were several, I can check off several of these boxes. I could say hairline cracks and so forth. But that wasn't the case. There was no damage. and additional comments. This is where you would say something about maybe how you're planning to send this message. This is just useful for us to help convey all the different ways that we can send information on this form. So I'm going to say, VHF, or let's say VARA FM via gateway. And then I can submit this. It tells me to go back to Winlink, so I'm going to say OK. And now I go back to Winlink, and there's the information. So again, it's automatically populated the recipient at the USGS. I could CC someone here. And here's the JSON data. All the answers that I've provided are included here. And as you can see, my call sign is showing up here under user ID. I could send this at this time, and it would go to USGS and go to Oliver. I'm not going to do that because I just made all this stuff up, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to close it and throw it away. But that's it. That's basic walkthrough of how we would use this. And let me see if I can find back to, it's hard to do. How do I get back to?
Jeff, go ahead and share your screen again if you'd like.
Yeah, thought I was. Okay, there it is. Okay, and that's it. So again, we'll be reaching out, to get lists of operators who are interested in participating in this testing. Oliver, do you want to spend some time on the GPS, or do you want to move on?
Perhaps we could take some questions from the group there, just to clarify the process and how to get involved. Anybody have any questions along those lines? All right. So Jeff and Oliver, if people are interested, they should be emailing you, or are you sending out an announcement that that they'll respond to?
Both.
Yes, both. We have this great group that is on the Winlink, the weekly Winlink exercise. We will use that format for at least one of these simulated tests. I think it's a great way to get people used to using the form, and it's sort of a captive group, so I have easy access to them. So we'll definitely do. I'm not sure if we'll do it this week or next week, perhaps next week, so we have a little time to organize it properly. We'll do a Winlink exercise, and then we'll also do maybe one or two additional exercises outside of the Winlink, the weekly Winlink exercise.
All
Other
right.
questions?
None at this time. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you all a little bit of background on how to get your GPS location. It's gotten a lot easier, as Oliver said earlier. We now can enter our GPS location in Winlink using one of many different formats. The decimal degrees is probably the easiest for us to use, and it turns out it's very easy to obtain from your smartphone. So that three ways I've indicated here for getting your GPS location are to use your smartphone, or a GPS dongle, or just a map. And again, the degree decimal is the easiest way to pull this information. Here's sort of the basic procedure if you're using your smartphone, Google Maps, or even the Apple Map. If you call up the map on your phone, a long press for 2 seconds on your location will bring up a location menu, as you see on here on the bottom of the screen. And part of that is your decimal location. Too many things on my screen getting blocked here. So here we go. Here's what your location looks like. As you can see, your latitude and longitude are shown in decimal degrees at the bottom of the screen here. And then you can copy and paste these into the form. Keep in mind that in this hemisphere, your longitude is going to be a negative, or it will be a positive number with a W at the end for west. But in decimal degrees, it's going to show up as a negative. If you're using a GPS dongle like this one, within Winlink, there's a screen where you can find this. Let's see, it's under here. If I go to settings, GPS position reports, I get this nice little screen. And as you can see, my GPS dongle is currently attached, so it's providing information live to this screen. If it's not set up on this screen, it's not going to work on the form either. So you want to set it up here first before you open the form. And again, you can, if you need to copy and paste, you can copy and paste the decimal degrees into the form. So again, very easy. If there's any questions about that, please ask now.
No questions.
Okay, well, that concludes what I wanted to cover.